Hello, everyone. So, what we're going to do today is we are going to live stream a teardown of ilvium.com, I think. So this is this is a recruitment software, and this comes out of the school community. So it's school with a K.com/SaaS-pricing. We have a community with about 400 or 500 people in it, all discussing B2B SaaS pricing. So over there, what I do is I ask for people to sort of send me their pricing, and then I do these teardowns. And the way it works is that they send me a package, and I actually do not pre-study it. So I just open up the documents, but I actually do not read through them. So I do that live. And the idea is that maybe this gives you some sort of an insight of sort of how I think through a case as I look at all the materials. So we're just going to do that, and maybe it's going to take 15 minutes, maybe it's going to take an hour, I don't know, but it's going to be one of these. So I'll just share my screen here, and then you can we can just take a look at what's going on. Okay, we're going to share that. We have a little bit of an infinity screen here. Okay, so this is the website. It says, looking for the most intuitive HR systems when you're looking to strengthen your recruitment strategy, optimize HR management. Our solutions are designed to meet your specific needs. That's great. And we don't have a pricing page. Okay, so let's see. Then I also have a Loom here from Jesper, who is I guess the founder of. I also have an email from him here. So he's the director. So he's the CEO. So let's see what Jesper has to say. So I've actually done quite a bit of recruitment software, and that is usually what people use to price recruitment software. So it's sort of either it's number of total candidates that are reviewed for recruitment, or it's numbers of positions filled. So actually with these things, recruitments can be a little bit, it sounds super specific, but actually it can be a little bit vague once you sort of drill into it. And then also usually so I'm going to look for Elvium here. Are they recruiting only one type, let's say blue collar factory workers, sort of low skilled labor or low wage labor, or are they recruiting across a range, so both low skilled and also, let's say, executive search? Because usually what's going to happen here is that there's a density issue where it's like it's much more valuable to hire a CEO than it is to hire, a clerk for a store. If you're just pricing per recruitment, that can actually sort of throw off your pricing game a little bit. So I'm going to be curious for that. Okay, so this is pretty much what I envisioned, right? That the volume game between recruiters is just very, very different, right? But also, I'm like, if this was like, the screen is moved a little bit, but it seems like he had like 30,000. I'm assuming that the currency here is not euros, but it's more like Danish kroners. I know Jesper is Danish, so that would be like it's a 7-to-1 ratio. So, but it's still like 2,000 for a contract, which is like pretty heavy, right? Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, so these types of companies, like ATS systems and anything else that usually price per employee, like they have friction with that model too. I know. So it's, and usually it is when you go in and you become more like a core HR system and you do like a bunch of things, like you run payroll, you run a lot of different HR functions with your platform. Then you also get to sort of add the recruitment module and then price that on a similar basis as your core HR, which is usually per employee. So as a specific product, I don't think the per employee is like a really good model if you just do like the narrow vertical of recruitment. Also, you're actually going to get into trouble because someone like he mentioned the amusement park, it's not completely clear for a lot of these seasonal businesses what the number of employees actually are, because they might only have like 30, 40 people as permanent staff, and then they have about 1,000, which is sort of seasonal workers that sort of flow in and out. So again, like it's one of these metrics that it sounds really simple, like how many employees do you have, but in reality, it actually has to be defined much more specifically for you to actually arrive at a number. So I think he's going to run into trouble if that's the direction we want to go in. Yeah. So the commentary he had is that, which actually you do with a lot of different. So it happens in a lot of different types of software that you both, if it already exists, what the software does as a service in the market, let's say recruitment is sold as a service, but now your software does it too. You can usually sell it both directly to the end customer, who then performs the service for themselves using your software, or you can sell it to the service provider, who then performs better, faster, cheaper service using your software. And that becomes a fence, meaning that each of these two segments are very different, right? They need different packaging, they need it for different reasons. Like one needs to hire their own people, and the other needs to sort of run the core element of the business they're in. Which also means that you can do different pricing and so forth. But let's see what he has to say here. Mhm. Okay, great. Let's see here. So I think actually it just occurred to me that what Jesper is doing here with the pricing model is that he's actually saying, hey, these prices that we have here is for that total number of, so it's a tranche pricing, right? So if we have whatever, you know, let's see if we have one screen where we can see it all. Yeah, so if we have from 70 to 100 recruitments per year, then it's 62,000, and then the contract or the career side of the onboarding is another like block fee of, let's say, 15,000, 12,500, 10,000, whatever on top of that, and then that gives an average price out here per recruitment, right? As far as I could tell. So if I have 100 improvements, then it sort of ends up at whatever 56,000. Then the average price is 561, right? In this case, and then he basically says we actually want to flatten it out, so the minimum price per recruitment becomes 500 at the end here. And so he actually uses a trick here at the end of the pricing scale, where so the price starts at whatever 1,275, then drops to down to 500, and then the next step is 500 as well. So there's no extra incremental discount on the last step. I actually advise people to do this. I don't know if he's seen some of my content earlier, but what this does is that when you show this pricing table to a really large customer, you signal very strongly with a price table like this that there is nothing below 500, right? Even at the next volume steps, no more discounts, right? So you're just saying, hey, we sort of hit a floor. Maybe it's like a cost limit, we have something else, but we're not going to budge here, right? And that actually that helps with negotiation, because if you hadn't had that last line, and it just would have gone 561, 523, 500, and then that was it. That's the end of the table. Then if a customer comes with far more volume than whatever your highest tranche is, they would assume that it would now go to whatever 400 or 300, that the price would be lower. But since you sort of end the table with a repetition of the last price point, it now signals that it's flat. So now the assumption from a very large customer is that, oh, if I come with a very, very high volume, it's still going to be 500, right? So that's just a really smart way to build a pricing model. Okay, so we have a bit of intro to the video. Actually, I have the spreadsheet over here. So I open it up, and we can sort of see his different unit economics here. So these are just number of employees. These are the unit price for the base module. So it starts relatively high. So that's the 1275, and then it drops down to 500. That's also what we saw. Okay, let's look at the email that he sent and see what he has for us, right? So he says, pricing model attached, Excel sheet, example and customer proposal. Yeah, I had that. So he had one over here that he sent. Okay, let's keep that. And then he says, I ask what your business does for whom and how you sell them. Elvim is a SaaS recruitment and HR platform enabling companies to handle everything from talent attraction to recruiting, contract management, onboarding, and HR management of employee data. Okay, so it's actually you keep delivering the value even after people are on board. I think that's critical, right? Because this will allow us to argue for different pricing models, so because the value delivery now isn't a point in time at the recruitment, it's actually throughout the employee's, let's say, lifetime with the company. We sell 90% of our products through online meetings that we book using an agency that cold call and book meetings. We're trying to convert visitors to meetings online, and this channel is slowly starting to perform. Okay, so they have outbound through an agency, and that's sort of 90% of their funnel. Okay. And you sell to 3 segments: small, medium, retail, which could be small, medium, but that's not just a vertical, and then professional recruiters. So usually when I see these some segmentation like this, it's not that it's wrong, and it might be precisely how you see something like this, right? But it's one of these things where, like, there is no structural difference between a small, medium enterprise and a retail customer. Like, a retail customer can be small, medium enterprise, and vice versa, or it cannot be, right? So it's just one is size and one is vertical. Okay, professional recruiters is different from retail, like, so those are 2 different verticals. But okay, so what I'm gathering here is that maybe the retail customers are bigger. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Your ARR number of customers, churn rate, and annual growth rate. No problem if all those are 0 because you're pre-revenue. So they have 3.9 million Danish kroner. That is roughly €500,000 in ARR. 12.5% annual churn. Annual growth rate is 10%. Okay, so that also means, so they're adding about, let's say, 50k euros a year, and which means that this is probably going to tab out at less than €1 million, right? So the idea is that if they're growing 10% a year and they're churning 12.5, at some point so if they're growing 10% a year, they're adding, let's just call it 50k euros, right? And that means that the churn rate is, so we divide 50k euros, the added revenue, by the churn rate, and then we get something like 800k, right? So at 800k euros, that's about 6 million Danish. The churn is now going to be equal to the new business, right? So they are at 75% of the total max that they have, right? Which is, let's say, great, but also like they probably want to go higher. That's just my impression. So just reading these numbers, you can say, hey, given the churn rate you have and the sales velocity you have and the growth rate you have, and it's going to be slower and slower, right? So because, at one point they're going to churn out, they're going to sell 50k and they're going to churn out 4k, 40k, and then, they're only going to grow 10k that year. So it's slow growing from here unless they either unlock a new sales channel, they increase the velocity of what they have, they increase the value of the customers they have, they reduce the churn, whatever it has. Like some of these numbers have to give if they want to go, let's say, past 1 million or 3 or 5 or 10 million, right? Okay. What goals are you trying to achieve? We want to reach the 1 million USD ARR investor threshold ASAP. Okay, so you're never going to do that with what you just have. Like that was schematic. We want to increase the subscription prices. Okay, great. We want to introduce service costs more efficiently. Okay, great. That was a little bit what Jesper also mentioned. We want to avoid the negative price spiral we see in the ADS market. Sure, you and everyone else, but fair enough. Fair enough. So let me try to reformulate that target, right? So we want to have valuable customers that appreciate the value we deliver, right? So which means that we don't want to have discount customers that just want it cheaper, and we, struggle to deliver the lowest cost provider solution in the market. Like we actually want to have some sort of a premium, fulfilling relationship with the customers we have, and we want to be able to charge them for the value we deliver. We want them to be happy for that, and then we want to grow the business to 1 million plus, right? And it looks a little bit like they're also saying, hey, and we want to reach this investor threshold, which means like so that we can get funding and grow in more. Okay, so I would say 1 million USD, that or another threshold mark, is not going to give you the venture investment or whatever investment you're looking for as much so as the model, right? So let's say that you were growing not 10% a year, but 200% a year, let's just say. Then I would say, oh, great. That means that you are now adding whatever, 1 million in the sales velocity. So divided by the churn rate of 12.5, which means that now your high-end target isn't 800,000, that's 8 million, right? So I know with this model, we're going to go to 8 million pretty quickly. And that would be investable in a whole different sense, right? So I would say, even if I doubled the customer value you had, let's say we just raised price at 100% with zero churn, so that instead of, let's say, 500,000 euros, which we have today, we took 1 million, and then the value that we brought in would be not 50k, but 100k, then we still would, no, so the value we wouldn't be, it wouldn't be 50, it would be 100k, and we would then divide with churn. Like, we wouldn't be at a really good spot here either, right? Because we would then say, okay, now maybe our threshold for where we can grow is something like, it's still less than 2 million, right? We're maybe at 1.6 or something. So it isn't very investable. So it's not one of these where investors are now, you have the 1 million ARR, you might even be profitable, you might be break even, you might have a good, like, it's sort of a lifestyle business at that size, but you're not necessarily investable because there's no economic model that just needs capital, and then we grow like a large cash flow. So I think I would look at the LTV CAC and the acquisition model as much as the top line revenue number in an investment case. Okay, so number 4 here. Why do you think the packaging and pricing you currently have is not able to achieve those goals? Current pricing metric, annual number of recruitments, creates too many barriers for us as some customer uses one job posting to hire hundreds of people and we can't control it. Okay, so that part I don't really get. So this is sort of one issue you have with sort of policing the number of, so I'm assuming that what you're saying, hey, we are using the number of recruitments as the metric. But the way we have chosen to define that is one job posting equals one recruitment. And the way that your customers is then using it, they say, well, one job posting is one job posting. And then sometimes we need like 100 of these people, and then we'll just like run them through that one job posting and fill all those positions. That's great. But that is sort of you not having a, let's say, good control of your customers and maybe not the right, let's say, data flow. Because if you also control the employee data once they're in, like, you know that they're hired for this position, right? So I would say if you took something like people hired or positions filled rather than job postings as the proxy for recruitments, then probably you could solve for this issue, right? So this is sort of one of the things where you need to sort of figure out what is the technical definition we can pounce on to really get to this. Because I mean, if you can, in good faith, have a conversation with customers where you say, hey, you're misusing our product. Like, we have this agreement where this is the way that the pricing is supposed to run and you're using it this way. That's not okay. Like, this is not the fair uses that we have, which is, you know, one job per job posting, right? Or it counts for several and you need to increase the pricing. So I think for those, if it's just edge cases, like I realize, like, if you have 100 customers and then 3 of them are using it this way, they are super annoying because you can just see how much money you're losing on those. But just go deal with them directly. You don't necessarily change the entire model if the 97% of customers are using it, let's say, correctly or as intended, right? Because you can very quickly over-engineer a model and create like too much complexity in it just to catch those few like criminals, like the people that are misusing it for some reason. And if you can just like, if it can just be solved by showing up with a meeting with them and say, hey guys, we know this is not how it's supposed to do, so we're going to change this, and then you can get them to comply, then that's fine, right? So I that would probably be my fix for something like this. Then you say contracts allow for price increases in line with inflation, minimum 3%, and increases higher than that will release the customer from the contract. Okay. Okay, let's save that for a little bit. Current service levels are just one onboarding fee, additional fee for training and workshop. Customer success has a hard time deciding when a customer is covered in normal support or if they need to charge. They can create friction with the customer asking for help. Okay, let's save that as well. What you already tried to do to solve this in the past, we started automating price increases 4 years ago with basically no comments from customers, as expected. Like, if you just do 3% a year or inflation, everybody's going to be fine. We added onboarding costs last year after attending a SaaS masterclass in Copenhagen, where I also was, and see that most customers accept it, but some deals still end up closing without the fee. At least it gives us something to use during negotiation. Then it's in Loot video, and then he posted in the school community. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Key metrics. Okay, 5.8 LTV CAC is okay. Average revenue per account is increasing. I'm assuming that's per year, and there's huge cross-selling potential. Quantity churn, and then okay. So let us look at. I think the magic is going to be in here. So a few things with the contracts that do not allow a price increase. Like, that's up to you. You can just have a price increase, contract or no contract, saying you can churn, but this is the new price, right? So I think that would probably be I think that's the least of your problems. People get too stuck on what the contracts are. If you're charging 100 today and you really think that the price should be 200, just go out and charge 200. And if it then takes, let's say, 2 years to transition the new customers to that price, so be it, right? But you'll still make more money in 2 years' time. You can do 150 next year and then 200, and then you're there. How do you know? Well, you can take 200 and try to sell it in the market. And if that works, then you're golden, right? So it's pretty simple, right? So if you know that the market can bear a certain price point, then so can your existing customer. And it's just a matter of telling. And if they say, oh, we have a contract, and I say, then you cancel the contract, right? That's it. And then you don't have a recruitment system, and they like you, right? So presumably they stay around for an average of 8 years. So they're pretty good. So the contract, so usually what I say is that the annual price increase, assuming you have a good model and you're sort of like you already set prices as what they should be something like inflation plus increased product value that you delivered during the year minus increased competitive pressure. So what do I mean by that? So let's say inflation was 2%, right? And let's say that you actually increased the value of the product 10%. How do you know? Well, you don't, but you can sort of have an idea of how much faster, better, smoother, more efficient your product is compared to what it was last year. You say, okay, this is we made no progress, or we made some progress, or we made major progress, or we made like disruptive progress. Whatever it is, it gives you some indication of where you are in terms of price increases. And it's relatively simple to say, hey, let's do whatever, 10, 15, 20%. It can also be something like, maybe you have bigger market login or whatever it is. And then you can look at the market and say, what are the other competitors doing? Are they moving as fast? Then maybe we shouldn't take all of that new product value. If they're moving even faster than us, maybe we should take none of it. If they're moving slower than us and we're really being innovative and some of the legacy players are not, then we can take some or all of that product value, right? So then it becomes 2% inflation plus, let's say, the 10% product value. So you increase 12% if you have legacy competitors that are not moving around, right? If you had tremendous product value increases of, let's say, what you would see, hey, this product is at least 30% more valuable than it was last year because we're moving candidates through 30% faster, we're reducing costs in organizations, where the NPS score we have is through the roof, whatever it is, and competitors are still standing still, then you just take the full 30% plus inflation. But it's sort of just a way to think about it. And then you have the different current service level, onboarding, and so forth. And the idea that you have onboarding and that you then somehow or sometimes discount it away as part of the sale makes total sense. So whenever you have something that you discount once, just a one-time fee, is usually much better than giving a discount on the ARR and the recurring fee. I would say, however, that we have this issue where the LTV CAC from a cash flow perspective really likes upfront cash, right? So if you have an onboarding fee and a full year paid upfront, that now means that everything that you spent cash-wise on acquiring that customer, now you have that money back plus some, so you can actually fund additional sales. So I think my overall strategy for something like this would be to try to increase the LTV CAC by first increasing the LTV. So if we can get that to, let's say, 10 to 1 by increasing prices, let's say 50, 60%, something like that, and we can get a really good cash flow profile, then I would just say, just triple the meetings, just hammer through so you can actually get a much higher growth rate, right? Because then that would actually mean a 24% growth rate. And usually what would happen actually unintuitively is that churn would increase in the beginning and then would go down. And that has to do with you being able to serve your customers better. The customers that select for a more pricey product are usually of a higher quality, so they don't go bankrupt, they don't switch around as much. So you would actually see churn maybe dropping to something like 10%, which would be pretty good. So I think that would overall be my strategy for trying to sort of work with these guys. But let's take a look at the product they have. So I think when I look at these modules, like career side, onboarding, video recruiting, recruiters, digital contracts, to be honest, I think most of this sounds like something that I would pretty much just include, right? So, and this sounds a little bit, this sounds maybe a little bit weird, but let's say we do something like this. And then, oh, we can transpose that? Okay. So let's say we have a bunch of features here, and then we have direct, and then we have recruiters here as two different, let's say, avatars that we're selling this to. And let's just make this one green and bold and big. And we will make this one purple and big and bold, right? And we have employee data and ATS system. Let's just say that. Okay, something like this, right? And I think you over here for recruiters, you want like a customer dashboard. You want roles and permissions. You want different, and then you can do something like a recruiters plus. So the whole idea with something like this is that you'd have to go through a process where you think about what is the next sale for the customer? Like, what are we going to sell them here? And then we're going to do something like advanced advanced approval workflows, customer reports. We need to do automated customer reports. And of course, they have all of this over here as well. And then maybe we build a more advanced version here as well. So now let's just take a few of these. So what I wanted to do here was to say, this is a sort of a very simple way to do an enterprise tier. So an enterprise tier would be something like single sign-on, multiple entities, audit trails, advanced approval workflows, advanced roles and permissions. So it's anything related to security and compliance and large organizations. So it actually has nothing to do with recruitment. Might not, right? So the idea is just to say, hey, invent a few of these features and then go into the enterprise tier with that. And then for recruiters here, you do something like, so again, it would be like if you're a transnational recruiter, you have several offices or you have several divisions where some work retail customers and some work executive search and whatever. You maybe want to have the core system and then split it up into the divisions. they need different P&Ls, maybe different countries and so forth. You organize all of that, meaning that you have local managers that have access to control roles and permissions for local recruiters, and they go through and blah, blah, blah. You do all these things. And then have advanced approval workflows that go out of the house so the client can approve like they say, this step in the candidate process before they move on. Then they go back and recruiter keeps going and so forth. So I think these are the types of things that you want to build in the sense that some of this really clearly differentiates between what is a enterprise type a customer or a advanced recruiter like a global recruiter and what is just a local one. And then you just split these two price levels. And then down here you have something like you have onboarding. Let's just make that into a nice yellow color because everybody knows the services are yellow. And we'll do this and we'll do this, right? Onboarding. So, and of course you can have that over here, and then you can have a premium support. And you can have, I'm just going to event, maybe did he have like a catalog of things that he wanted to do? I actually forget that. Training workshops. I think I saw something here. Okay. So especially over here with recruiters, training can actually be an ongoing thing. So meaning that say, hey, we're going to train all your recruiters, and then we're going to, because recruiters also have a relatively large turnover of recruiters, like people who are doing the recruiting. So if they need to train people with the software all the time, they can do that in-house, or you can say, hey, we can do like a training library. So we build up and maintain and support you having like a standard operating procedure for how you want to run the recruiting inside our software. We'll maintain that. We'll make sure that it's updated and sort of kept. This is a service, so you may not want to do it, but it is there for you to sell, right? So the idea would be that that this is how it's set up. So we'll just, and then these are separated. So this is super blank. So you have one side here with the recruiter and one side with the direct, and then you'd have different types of services, premium support, both cases. Could you have reporting? Maybe. Could be something. I think for the different ATS systems I have done, it has usually been some sort of a price per recruiter thing that you have. So if we talk about pricing, like how you actually would do this from a pricing point of view, I think I would probably do what you have here, where I would say there's a base fee, and then there's tranches, let's say to 10 to 50 to 25 to 50 to 100 to 150, whatever number of recruiters. Let's just make this a little bit bigger so that everybody can see what's going on, right? So something like this, right? Where you say, okay, so the base fee is, let's say, let's just use this prices here. Oh, I have them over here. So let's say that it starts at around 10K. This is, and then he has all these different sort of add-ons. I would just fire them in here. So it's like 15, 17, 19, 21, let's say 25K. That's pretty much where it starts per year, right? So I would just do 25K per year for the recruitment system, and then do something like times whatever, 800 is that. And then for the enterprise, I would do whatever, 50K, maybe even 75K, and then do times 800, whatever the unit price is that he has. And then you try to build the customer value like that, because what he has here is that each incremental, so you see if the base fee is around 10K and at 1020, it's usually around this, it starts to build pretty quickly. And he goes to 500 here. So let's say if we can make the numbers add up as well. Let's do 200, 250, 300, 400, 500, right? Yeah, so we go to around 400K, but that's for that. And then you have to add this base fee here. Yeah, so that should be, so the idea is that if you add all these together, you probably get around 400K, right? So the whole idea, and the unit price decreases a little bit. So what I'm essentially proposing here is that, like, instead of going through the process of upselling each and every one of these modules, like, do you want a career site? Do you want maybe the onboarding goes out, right? But you're on the video recruiting and the digital contracts, just like throw it in there. Just like give them everything and say, hey, this is the recruitment platform for you. It has all of this. And then say it would be way more expensive for us to try and chop it up into different modules and so forth and give it to you. So what you're instead doing is you're trying to figure out what the job to be done is. And that basically is, if you want to, in the new digital world, to actually recruit people, you need to have the core system, the employee data, the digital contract, the video calls, the onboarding process, for whatever it is. Like all this needs to happen. Like, and that's the job. So let's do that. And then what is it that I need next? You can either say, hey, we now want to go and do like the enterprise version where we are now a big company that needs to do these things. Okay, that is another job, and then you run it like that. Or you can say something like, maybe the next job is that now that I need to market my job posting, so I actually need reach. So that would then be another tier where you'd go something like you'd have a specific other tier in here. I don't know, I'm just inventing things on your behalf, right? So please don't take this as gospel at all, but it would simply be like marketing or reach, right? Where you say, hey, we now want to promote the job posting. And you do something like that, right? So you'd create functionality to spread it to different channels, to just like one button push, have it to whatever, all the job posting sites, to LinkedIn, to run the entire marketing through that, so that people didn't have to then take the job posting and then go out and build all that channels out, right? So whatever it is, you'll just figure out like, what is the core job? We need to sort of run hiring. And the next thing is like, now we need to have the candidate inflow so we can actually have someone to hire. And then finally, maybe we need to have the enterprise package where we do all these things, whatever it is, right? But the idea is that you need to have a very specific idea about what the overall outcome is for a customer so that you can sell them that outcome. What you're doing here with career site and video and digital contract is you're very much selling a feature, right? You're selling, hey, we had this piece of software. It does this very specific technical thing, but the job is too small. Like it's very hard for a customer to tie a business value to a video call. Like you really have to sort of think through, okay, so how many minutes are this going to save us for what people like? So what they really want to do is they just want to have hiring done, right? They just want to have this entire department just run more efficiently. So I actually think that you're over packaged, or you're unbundled a little too hard. And I would probably try to refocus on like a core hiring proposition, and then see if you have something else that you could also do with like, hey, we can then promote your job posting, or we can handle it in a large organization. And maybe you don't have these two tiers now. That's just how it is. And I would actually sell this. I would probably try and find something that I could sell an enterprise package just to have an upsell, and then do this as the core system, and then have this as the upsell. Because you're going to spend too much time arguing with customers of whether they really need the video recruit or not. and you don't want to spend time on it. You just want to give it to them and essentially just charge them for it. And yeah, I think that's my proposition. And you can probably just by that, without actually increasing prices for the delivery, but you just increase the product footprint you have with these customers. It's almost like a forced cross-sell that you do, and that then increases the revenue that you make on these customers. And then do charge for onboarding, do charge for premium support. Premium support usually is something like, let's say, 10 to 20% of the core value here. So it would be, so if it's whatever, an enterprise customer for 400K, you could charge between 40 and 80K. And you have this issue where you say, hey, we can't figure out which ticket goes where and what we should charge for. The way I usually solve for that is just go in, take the last, 500 tickets, like relatively large chunk, and then try sorting them. And what's going to happen is you're probably going to find like 80% of the tickets, like of the volume of the tickets, which is actually a very few number of different types of tickets. It's like, oh, I want to create a user, or I want to reset a password, or I want to pull this report, or whatever it is. It's usually the same 10, 20, 30 things that just gets repeated multiple times, right? That is your premium support. Like you say, we will solve all these things so that 80% of the total volume is in premium, which is taken care of. And then you charge a fixed price for that, because those things you know how to do because they're recurring and they happen all the time at volume. And then it's only the last 20% of the volume, maybe even less, that are these sort of weird requests, like, can we do the XYZ thing? And then that's what's outside of premium support. And then every ticket you run through the system, you just tag it. Is it one? What category does it fall in? And is that category covered in premium support? Yes, no. If no, then you flag it to the customer, say, hey, this is not included. This is going to be a professional service ticket. We'll scope it for 2 hours or whatever it is. And then you can sell them prepaid bundles of hours to say, you want to buy 20 hours up front for all the configurations and things that are not covered in the support package. Okay, sure. And then you'll have the cash flow there too. One thing, by the way, that you can always have as an add-on is probably white labeling. So that usually can be a more technical add-on. It can work really well. So, that could be considered in addition to some of the other things. That can just have a fixed fee, and you can actually do that over here as well with the recruiters. And that's probably how I would run it. With regards to these customers, so since your lowest customer, smallest customer is, what did you say? Your average revenue per account is 30,000 DKK. Okay, and so let's say that most of the guys that you have are like in this range and they buy one add-on, right? So if you bump this up to 25K and then like work from there, include all of this stuff, that should increase your ARPA. I would say pretty much the 66% you need to reach that €1,000,000, like more or less. And that also, assuming that it's going to need some practice time for you to sell that new proposition. But with a few extra add-ons and things that you have, like I'm proposing here, let's say with a white label setup or premium support, maybe a reporting, this could also be a technical add-on. It doesn't need to be a service, so it can be a service or something that's done technically. Let's say a bespoke dashboard that you set up and does some reporting. With that, and then having an enterprise tier that is even more expensive, I think you can pretty much get your LTV CAC to the 10-point mark. That would be my idea. And then the ARPA would grow to something like 50, 60, probably. And then hopefully that also means that you would probably go to 125K a year in inflow with around 10% churn long term. So that means that you should now be in a better position to grow compared to where you were. Okay, that was it. I hope that the teardown made a little sense. So we spent 50 minutes on this. So last teardown, I promised that I would try to make it a little faster. So if you want to see other teardowns, go to the school community, and that is I'll actually sort of just pop it open here, if we can find it. Here, that's the school community. We have some members in here. We have a community page with a lot of stuff. We have 420 members. That's great. So it's school.com/SaaS pricing. And I think you need to go through the about page here. So it's about to get access to the community. So this is where you also can discuss this teardown, look at the commentary and so forth. Okay, cheers.